Hi, everybody. Merry Christmas from Gals, Ghosts, and Ladies, and Jennifer, and we are live from Lizzie Lou Studio. I hope you liked our Christmas intro. As the old expression goes, I am a legend in my own mind. I feel like I'm running my own TV show over here. Uh, don't mind me, I'm shaking up my little sparkly Christmas gift to myself. It's like a little lava lamp. Makes me so happy, and it was so inexpensive. But anyways, yeah, I thought a little Christmas intro might be nice, little decoration and some Christmas music. Because we're not really going to talk so much about mysteries tonight. I think that normally my intro music is a little mysterious, but it's Christmas and we're going to keep it light. Now, Saturday, the 27th, we're going to talk about Krampus. I don't know a lot about him. I'm just starting to research. I have a couple of days off before we do that. Um, Shout out to my day job, Ladybug Pest Control. I'm so grateful to have Christmas off, and I'm off on Fridays. So I'm really looking forward to really getting some good information and presenting Krampus on Saturday. And that will be a little bit formal. This is more informal, not a lot of mysterious and macabre tonight. Definitely some mysteries, definitely some humor. It's going to be we're going to talk some Christmas trivia, hopefully some fun stuff, probably stuff you've heard before, and hopefully something you haven't heard before. So I see I have one viewer. I'm not sure who it is. Please say hello in the comments. If anybody's been following me, I am raffling off this REM Pod doll head. So anybody who comments in tonight's live stream, you will be entered into that raffle. If you have been entered into that raffle before, you will get entered another time. So you won't get entered for every comment, but for every person who comments, you will get one additional chance or one chance. Oh, hi, Laurie. That's my friend Laurie, West Coast Laurie. You get entered for a second chance because you already have one. And Kelly, you get entered. Merry Christmas, entered for a second chance. So yeah, anybody who comments tonight gets a chance or a second chance to be entered into this raffle. And I've got to start taking names. Well, I can always do that after the show. So I'll do that after the show. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope everybody had a great holiday. I had an awesome Christmas. Let me get a little housekeeping done. I want to say Merry Christmas, happy, whatever you celebrate. If it was just a day off and you don't celebrate anything, I hope you enjoyed yourself. It's the days just got that kind of vibe. Thank you for watching on Facebook and YouTube live, and thank you if you're watching at a later time. Sometimes I just like to put these things on in the background at a later time. I can't always get to everything that I want to watch and listen to. I do want to remind you that this is an 18 and over conversation. Sometimes we do talk about disturbing things, and as I like to say, sometimes I get a little disturbed that we're not more disturbed by the disturbing things that we talk about. But tonight, a little more lighthearted because it is Christmas. Still like to keep it 18 and over. Pour yourself a glass of wine, a cup of coffee. This is a 420 friendly space. Smoke them if you got them. I know I did. So I got a little glow on. Besides, I'm in the glowing library. I chose the library tonight as a backdrop because I looked in a lot of eclectic places for some of the trivia that I'm going to lay out tonight. So I just thought the library was an appropriate background. Plus, I love this background because it's like a tree house. If you can see above, it's like the sky, and there's a stairs behind me. And I, because it is just a backdrop on the wall, I couldn't put this guy on the stoop, but I am hanging out with my Snoop on the stoop tonight, courtesy of Aunt Mary and Amanda. Thank you. But this is who I'm hanging out with tonight, instead of an elf on a shelf. So again, get cozy, get comfy, pour yourself something to drink, get something to eat, get a snack. I'm gonna turn off my my Merry Christmas banner. Whoops, whoops, and there we go. And that's the studio. So I want to say I spent my Christmas exactly how I wanted. I have a new Shirley Jackson book my friend Kate gave me for Christmas, and I spent the day in front of the fireplace reading that. And I really enjoyed the book, and I enjoyed myself. turn this off so I save the battery. And for us this year, my mother didn't come down. She worked. So instead of me cooking a dinner, we got Chinese food, me and my husband. And in the middle of dinner, I remembered. This is a piece of trivia that I just happened to remember after I had done a little research. And you know me, I've got notes. I've got 3 pages of notes. 3 pages of notes. But anyways, I think everybody knows that movie, A Christmas Story, Ralphie, and you know that one. And in the very last scene, because the Bumpus's dog stole their turkey, their Christmas turkey. In the very last scene, they're in a Chinese restaurant and they bring out a goose, and the head is still, the goose is cooked, but the head is still on the goose, and they chop the goose's head off right at the table. And the reaction, Chinese food is your favorite Christmas dinner. Thank you, Laurie. I don't feel so bad. And Kelly loves Snoopy. Yeah, me too. But so in that movie, though, in A Christmas Story, when they chop the head off the goose and the mother is like, and she has that great reaction, that reaction was real. They didn't tell her they were bringing a goose out with a head on it, and they didn't tell her they were going to chop it off at the table. So I think that's probably why that's one of my favorite scenes in the movie, because her acting seems so genuine, and it turns out it wasn't acting at all. It really was genuine. She didn't know it was coming out that way, and they chopped the head of it right off in front of her, and she freaked, and they kept it in, and I just thought it was great. So that's, I think, kind of the stuff we're going to be talking about tonight, that kind of like random weird Christmas trivia. I've got some trivia maybe about a couple of movies, about some music, about how the holiday came about and when it came about. I am my own research assistant, and I did all of this research this afternoon. So if I've made any errors, let me know so I can let that research assistant know, and I'm going to dock her pay. But seriously, I did try to use legitimate sources, so don't just take my word for it. I'm not going to give you my sources. Don't take my word for it. Look it up yourself. You're big people. You all got Google fingers, don't you? So anyways, all right. And again, I just hope that everybody had a great holiday or a great day off. And if you had to work, well, thank you. I know I certainly worked many Christmases at Pine Street Inn, and my husband has worked many holidays at Pine Street Inn. So it's nice to have the holidays off. I can tell you that after working many, many years on the holidays. So, but thank you to the people who work in the shelters, the first responders, the people who work at Walgreens, because they're open all the time, that kind of thing. Thank you all very, very much. And thank you to all the retail workers who really, you put in extra shifts and you stayed on your feet. And my friends like Jennifer Dowd, she's in the retail business and she works in a liquor store. Thank you to people like that too. So again, we're going to keep it light tonight, and Saturday we'll talk about Krampus. And let's go with a little more Christmas trivia. So I started with that about the scene in A Christmas Story. And then let's see. How about A Christmas Carol? There are so many versions. Everybody's got a favorite. Personally, this one's my favorite, from 1951 with Alastair Sim. I've probably seen all of them. There's some really good ones out there, but that's personally my favorite. The one with George C. Scott, I think it's from the 80s, 70s, 80s. That was very good too. But interesting, I learned this, and I learned this before today. But I did learn it just this week, that in the George C. Scott version of A Christmas Carol, there's no musical score. And they did that deliberately so that the movie would come across more stark, that it would come across more serious, and really set a tone. And I don't know if anybody follows me here on Gals, Ghosts, and Ladies. I talk a lot about tone, cinematic tone as it applies to writing. Tone is really important in conveying messages, literary, cinematic, even audio. When you're reading something out loud, I'm working on trying to learn to read aloud. I'd like to read things like The Monkey's Paw, stuff like that aloud. But anyways, so we were talking about tone. So yeah, so the George C. Scott version of A Christmas Carol, it has a very stark tone, and it's meant to, because A Christmas Carol, while it has a happy ending, is a very stark story. It's a serious story. Even though it does have a good ending. So that's a couple of trivia pieces about that movie. And then you've got another one of my favorites, Mr. Magoo, Christmas Carol. Jim Backus, Mr. Magoo. Everybody remembers him, or anybody my age remembers him. I think that I don't have the year here, but I think that was like around 1963, maybe a year before I was born. I was born in 64. But that's always a fun one, and you can find that on YouTube. And I suggest having some fun and looking up Mr. Magoo Christmas Carol on YouTube and watching it. It's quite enjoyable and very nostalgic for me. It brought me back to my childhood. I can remember watching it on a black and white TV. That's how long ago that was. Probably on Burlington Avenue, and we moved from there when I was 4 or 5. So yeah, so that's really old. That's a really old version of it. So, but again, my favorite is the Alistair Sim version. And I would love to hear what your favorite version of A Christmas Carol is and why. I just told you all about mine. Let's have a conversation. Let's see. So some Christmas trivia. Did I have any more graphics I wanted to share? So, all right. Again, anybody who comments will get a raffle ticket added. If you have had a raffle ticket added, you'll get a second raffle ticket or an extra raffle ticket added for making a comment tonight. So thank you for engaging. I really appreciate that. I am new to live streaming, so if you are going to critique, please be kind. I do appreciate your kindness. I am new to StreamYard, but I'm learning it. I'm getting better all the time. I've got new lighting. I've got a new camera, courtesy. Well, they're not courtesy of my friend Matt, but some advice was courtesy of my friend Matt. And he is a professional, and I take his, when he says "baba" on the camera and "baba" on the light, I take his advice, and I see a difference. I do have a bit of a different screen setup because of my new camera, but this one is a 1080 DPI, and it's just a better quality. And the lighting, I look more normal instead of washed out. So, oh, Kelly, excited! Can't wait for that thermal imaging camera attachment for your camera. How exciting! I can't wait. I can't wait for that. So, all right, on we go to some Christmas trivia. So let's see, kind of a la Clark Griswold from the Vacation movies, think Christmas Vacation. 15,000 people a year end up in the emergency room from home decorating incidents. 15,000 people a year. And most of those are falls, and that just kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Probably a lot of dads out there hanging off the gutters, hanging lights, and that kind of thing. And yeah, Laurie, it is. And you know what? I'm not exactly sure on my source on this. This could have been something from 5 years ago. I don't know. It could be even more than that now. So I do know it's not from 2025 because we're not done with our holiday season yet. But yeah, I thought of Clark Griswold. Another interesting tidbit, the very first artificial Christmas trees, can anybody, without Googling it, I don't know how fast you guys respond, how real time we are. Without Googling this, does anybody know what the first artificial Christmas trees were made of? I'm going to give it about 10 seconds, and I'm going to trust my friends that I see here that nobody's going to Google it. I'm wondering if anybody knows. I didn't know. I ran across this in obscure Christmas trivia searching. So yeah, I'm going to go 10 seconds. Anybody? Bueller? Seriously, anybody? No. Well, all right. Tinsel, good guess, Laurie. Just for that, I'm going to give you another raffle ticket in the raffle. And pipe cleaner, good. I'm going to give you another one, Kelly, too. But pipe cleaner, no. The very first artificial Christmas trees were made of dyed goose feathers. Interesting, right? I thought so. I had no idea. I never in a million years would have guessed. And I think that tinsel or something like a pipe cleaner would have been along the lines of my guesses. Certainly pipe cleaners, because they've been around a long time. And tinsel, I could have gone down kind of the tinsel road, Lori. Yeah, Kelly, goose feathers. But tinsel has a really long history. It didn't start in Germany, and it was real silver that they used to put on the trees. I will say that much, but I didn't kind of go down that path on here. But again, those are answers I would have guessed. Whoever would have thought dyed goose feathers? Goose feathers are pretty versatile. We've all had a goose feather pillow, goose down jacket. They used to make beds out of it. So yeah, that's kind of cool. Probably, yeah, I don't think they did stay firm. And did you ever sleep on a goose down pillow and get poked with the thing from the feather? So they're not always, yeah. So I'll go with microfiber or whatever's in them now. Thank you very much. And artificial trees that now are anti-inflammatory, not anti-inflammatory. Listen to me, I'm thinking about medication because my elbow hurts. You know, uh, non-flammable. That's the word I'm looking for. So I would imagine that a goose down Christmas tree would go up like flames. You probably didn't put lights or candles on it. Also, another tidbit that I didn't write down, but I remembered from my research today. In the early 1900s, not every household had electricity, but people wanted Christmas tree lights. So and they didn't want to buy them because they were expensive, and it was very common practice to rent Christmas tree lights. I thought that was kind of a cool tidbit. Now they're so inexpensive, but that's what people used to do, rent them so that they didn't have to buy them. Although in the bigger picture, it means that somebody else is going to store them and roll them and wrap them, and then you don't have to deal with that shit, you know. Hey, there's $1 million idea. I'll store your Christmas stuff. I'll wrap, I'll roll up your Christmas lights, store it for you. Interesting. That thought should be continued um, on another day. The number one selling toy for Christmas in 1980 was this guy right here, the Rubik's Cube. That was the number one selling toy at Christmas in 1980. I'm sure I had one along the lines somewhere. I could never figure one out. My grandfather had one or several, and my grandfather was a brilliant man. Kelly would have guessed Cabbage Patch. Yeah, yeah. Well, listen, Kelly, maybe this is why it was Rubik's Cube and not Cabbage Patch. Rubik's Cube in 1980 was $1.99. Now in 2025, they're about $10. Talk about something that shows inflation. Jeez, that's crazy. And yeah, maybe 83, maybe Cabbage Patch Babies came along a little later, because I know I got a Cabbage Patch Kid from my son. He was born in 89, and that was like the very end of the Cabbage Patch craze. It was cool. He loved it. But yeah, so 1980. But I also thought that was interesting because, now everything is technological, and this wasn't technology. And certainly there was technology in 1980. But this was, I'm thinking like Nintendo. We were well past Pong in 1980. But Nintendo, my friend Arlene had Nintendo on. I loved everything Nintendo, Pac-Man, all that shit. Space Invaders, Asteroids, loved it all. And I still love video games. I still do. I'm not a gamer, but there's a couple video games that I really love. But I digress. Let's see. Oh, here's an interesting fact about Oh, wait a minute. Back up. We were talking about artificial trees. Back up. Okay, there's the Rubik's Cube. Back up to that. We're talking about artificial trees. Full disclosure, I don't know about you all. That is not my Christmas tree, but in the 1970s we had one, and we had the colored wheel, and the color wheel, and it rotated. And listen, guys, I'm almost 62 years old, and I can still hear the sound of that color wheel. And it's very nostalgic, and it was really funny to have that Christmas tree. And it used to be my grandparents. You had one too, Laurie. I don't feel so alone. It was very corny, but it's also it's kind of a unique thing. It's like, yeah, not everybody had one. They were a little corny, but I think if people didn't have one, they looked at, oh, please look at me. Look at me. My microphone changes colors here and here. I've got neon gals. If we were to look at my studio, I've got my neon gals sign lit. If you look at my calendar to the right, it glows different colors and it changes different colors. And I've got all kinds of, so, so I guess that's what happens when you have one of those metal Christmas trees and a color wheel. You end up growing up loving all these pink and psychedelic stuff. And I love surrounding myself with that. I even have a changing color light over here in the corner. If you watch, it will change colors. Probably all because I have to admit I did love that. Yep. So thanks for letting me share that little story with you. Okay, so let's see. Mistletoe, a little bit of a history on mistletoe. You kiss under the mistletoe because the ancient Greeks thought that it was an aphrodisiac. So to kiss under it was supposed to lead to romance. And I guess we still think that today as well. Also about the ancient Greeks, I didn't write this down, but this is interesting. I wasn't even going to bring it up, but I guess I will. Sometimes we write Xmas and people were like, oh, keep the Christ on Christmas and don't, and you're worried about offending people. Well, X is actually the Greek letter for the CHR sound, or was at that time. So it really is, I don't know, it's in my mind almost the equivalent of using like Roman numerals or something. I know it's kind of a shortcut and I don't mean to offend anybody, but I thought that was interesting. So, but anyways, mistletoe, the ancient Greeks thought it was an aphrodisiac. And that's why we kiss under it, hoping that it's going to spark romance for us. Mistletoe is named for the mistle thrush bird. I do not have a picture of mistletoe, and I do not have a picture of the mistle thrush bird. But the mistle thrush bird eats the mistletoe, and it drops its berries. So mistletoe is the German word for, literally translated, dung on a twig. So that's what mistletoe means in German, dung on a twig. And it's all about the mistle thrush birds eating the berries and dropping them. So I hope you found a little humor in that. You know me, I always want to come up with back to Obscura. I want you to walk away with a piece of knowledge that you didn't have before you came here. Whether it's goofy or not. You may, who knows? You might see something like this on Jeopardy, one of these questions on Jeopardy one of these days. I might do a trivia all-star pop quiz one of these days and see who watches, and I'll ask questions for my live streams, and I'll give questions. I mean, I'll give prizes away to people who answer questions. Let's see. And I do apologize for looking at my notes. Sorry, not sorry. As we know, Christ was not born on December 25th. He was born in either the spring or the fall. I don't know which. And the only thing I'm going to say is that they say it's spring or fall. Hello, Lizzie. There's Michelle, who Lizzie Lou Studio is partly named after. And we are live from Lizzie Lou Studio tonight. But yeah, Christ wasn't born on December 25th, and I don't mean any offense to anybody. He was born in spring or fall. And how do they know spring or fall? Because the stories say that there were shepherds at night. And for the shepherds to be at night patrolling or doing whatever it is that shepherds do, it would have to be spring or fall. So apparently in winter and summer, they weren't doing their work at night. So that's interesting. So it wasn't on December 25th in the winter. So it was in the 14th century, which is the 1300s. That's a long time ago. The Catholics, now I've talked before when I did my thing on Thanksgiving about folk horror, talked about how there is definitely a tie between Christianity and pagan and like Christmas trees, blah, 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 blah. So you'd have to watch the other one and get some of the details. But interesting. So the pagans celebrated the solstice around December 21st, and it was a very exciting and raucous and celebratory and drinking and lights and gifts and all kinds of stuff. Very, very fun celebratory time. So the Catholics, the Christians, decided to move the date of the birth of Christ to match up with the solstice, to attract the pagans to become Christians. So the Christians put Christmas at that time to kind of piggyback on the pagan celebration stuff, and then try to attract people kind of, I guess, with their own stuff on it. I think you kind of get what I'm saying. I thought that was really interesting, because the solstice is very festive, is very celebratory. Let's see, what is Kelly was reading, that they were thinking that Jesus was born in April because of the birth story. Could have been a shooting star that passed through the sky around the time of April that year. And I remember you saying April babies. So yeah, I can buy into that. I got no problem with that at all. But that would be spring and the shepherds are out. So that jives with what I'm saying. So I like that, Kelly. I like that a lot. How do I starred that? I don't know what that means, but I starred your comment. So now what you've got is a couple hundred years of Christmas being very exciting, very celebratory, and a way to kind of hook the pagans in to convert. Hey, look, we've got parties on this day too, but blah, blah, blah. And we know that in any organized religion, conversion is a big factor, good, bad, or indifferent. I'm not making a commentary, I'm stating a fact. So now let's kind of fast forward. Let's fast forward 300 years to the 1600s. So we've gone from the 1300s, where the Christians have changed the date of the birth of Christ to attract people. Now we're in 1600s, and we're in the Massachusetts Bay Colony, and we're with the Puritans, who escaped religious persecution to come here and persecute people for religion. But again, I'm not making any commentaries one way or the other. But what the Puritans actually did in the 1600s in the Massachusetts Bay Colony, I never knew this. I grew up in New England. I never knew this. So here again, back to Obscura. The Puritans actually made Christmas illegal for a period of time. Because it was so festive and so raucous and people were having a good time. So in the Massachusetts Bay Colony, for a certain period of time in the 1600s, not sure of the exact dates, you would get fined. There would be monetary fines levied against you for not working. So if you didn't work on Christmas, you were fined, and for feasting. And I can only guess that when they say that you would be fined for feasting, merrymaking. And hold that thought on merrymaking, please. If you're listening, hold that thought on merrymaking. In fact, I got to write that one down because I didn't earlier. I want to tell you about something that I didn't write down, but because it was, and the Puritans were not about fun and merrymaking, so they made it illegal, and you could be fined for those things. So like I said, feasting. I think feasting meant more than that. It meant not just eating. It meant drinking and being raucous and probably dancing and all that other kind of stuff that they used to do and still do. But for a period of time, it was very offensive to say Merry Christmas. So in England, they say Happy Christmas. Here we say Merry Christmas. Apparently, we used to say Happy Christmas too. Merry Christmas was offensive because I said merrymaking as applied to the holiday. So to say Merry Christmas was offensive because merry meant drinking. And that was a really obscure tidbit. So again, you're walking away with something just totally bizarre that I found. And if you don't believe me, look it up yourself. You'll find it. And I just thought that was interesting. So yeah, I am just loaded with Christmas trivia tonight. I hope you're enjoying it. And I just love hearing from everybody. And now, Michelle, I'm so glad that you're here. I spent some of my best Christmases with Michelle Mitchell, who's in comments. My cousin Michelle, my first best friend and my longest best friend really. More like my sister, really. I love you, Michelle. Merry Christmas. All right, so now that was about the Puritans. Now let's talk about the physical appearance of Santa Claus. Here's some cool trivia, and again, you just might see something like this on Jeopardy or some shit like that, you know. So Santa, Father Christmas, used to be slim and was usually dressed in green. They said green and blue. I found more green images, and I certainly recall seeing these types of images. But that's not the Santa that we know. This is the Santa Claus that we grew up with and that we know. And this Santa Claus was a marketing ploy from Coca-Cola in 1930. Coca-Cola deliberately made Santa Claus in the red and white colors of Coca-Cola. I would say this is the most successful marketing campaign ever, ever, ever. Because they changed the face of Santa Claus from now till eternity. It would take a lot to either change him back, or it would take a lot to come up with something new, right? Oh, hi, Lisa. We'll cook it a prime rib, my favorite. But I'm so glad that you could make it. Hey, go ahead and keep cooking and just listen, relax, enjoy yourself. So yeah, so we went from, where were we? We went from Santa Claus looking like this and like this to looking like this in what I said has got to be the most successful marketing campaign the United States and maybe the world has ever seen. I don't know. I mean, besides maybe Ronald McDonald, I mean, more people know who Santa Claus and Ronald McDonald are, and Lucille Ball, than Jesus Christ. So so Coca-Cola really nailed it with that one. You got to give credit where it's due. Plus, I'm a Diet Coke girl. You're either a Pepsi Coke, Pepsi or Coke person, and I'm definitely a Diet Coke girl. So yeah, so that's how Santa Claus got his appearance, his modern day appearance as we know it. And again, I'm almost 62, and he's always looked like that in my lifetime. So this goes back, like I said, to the 1930s. Coca-Cola changed the look of Santa Claus. I saw on the news that Santa Claus's the demand for store Santa Clauses and live Santa Clauses was really down this year. And the other thing is that the demand for Santa Clauses with real beards was up this year because they just don't want kids pulling them off. And I just thought that was funny. Let's see. Here's an interesting tradition in Japan for Christmas. So I had Chinese food today. Laurie said she has Chinese for traditional Christmas dinner. Lisa, my friend Lisa, is making a prime rib. Lisa is a phenomenal cook. I bet she's making popovers with them too. What are they called? You know, Lisa. But in Japan, what do they have for Christmas dinner in Japan? The traditional Christmas dinner in Japan is Kentucky Fried Chicken. Yeah, it's Kelly. Your son was telling her this. So apparently there was a Kentucky. From what I could tell, it wasn't Yorkshire pudding. That's what those popovers are called. Thank you, Lisa. I love them. I love those. And Lisa, like I said, is a phenomenal cook. But yeah, in Japan, apparently in 1974, there was a Kentucky Christmas ad. I don't believe it was a Kentucky Fried Chicken ad. That's the weird thing. It was a Kentucky Christmas ad in the 1970s, and Japan just took off with it. Kentucky Fried Chicken for dinner on Christmas is so popular in Japan that you have to order your meal up to 2 months in advance. Up to 2. So in Halloween, you're ordering your Christmas dinner at Kentucky Fried Chicken, and I just think that's hysterical. Yeah, Kelly, it's so crazy. I know, right? But hey, I love Kentucky Fried Chicken, right? So I thought that was funny. Oh, here's an interesting one. It's a Wonderful Life. Oh, how many people out there love that movie? I love that movie. It's one of my favorites. Makes me cry every time. Who doesn't love Jimmy Stewart? And who was it? Donna Reed. And just so many other good actors, and just a great movie with a great story, right? Wrong. In 1946, wrong. It bombed at the box office in 1946. Um, and I don't see why. It doesn't say why it bombed, but it did say that it did not recoup its production costs. So it was in the red. It didn't make any money. It became popular after its copyright ended and they started showing it on television. So I remember in my recollection from my experience, I didn't see this online anywhere. NBC used to be the first ones to show this. And that's where I saw it. That's where I first saw it. So, and it didn't become popular with people until it was being shown on television. So the power of TV. How cool is that? That nobody, I think, if I recall, I think The Wizard of Oz bombed too at the box office, and probably same thing, didn't become popular till later. I remember being a kid and watching it on black and white TV, and I was amazed when I finally saw it in color. So what do we have next? So how about some candy trivia? Candy canes, the origin of candy canes. No, they are not J's for Jesus, and no, they have no religious um, token. They're not supposed to look like a religious token or something like that. But here we are going back to the 1600s again. And the candy itself, before it was candy canes, the sugar mint candy itself was made as sweets to give to kids in church to keep quiet. So we've all done that with our kids, giving them a candy bar to keep them quiet. I don't see anything wrong with that on occasion. So that's where the candy came from. It was years and years later that the red was introduced as a decoration. And then they were later shaped in the shape of a hook to look like a shepherd's hook. But that was much years later. It's not a J for Jesus and it's not a Christian symbol. But I just thought that the origin of it was interesting. Give the kids a piece of candy in church and it keeps them quiet. I just have to say everybody for watching. And Lisa made au jus. Oh man, oh boy, that was going to be a delicious dinner. But everybody who's watching tonight, thank you so much. And I do hope that you're enjoying this trivia. And I hope that you're all hearing something that you never heard before. Let's see. Stocking stuffers, the origin of stocking stuffers. I found interesting. Brad, hi. So nice to see you. It was nice to meet you, and I'm glad you liked the backdrop. I'm going to give a quick blurb. I picked the library backdrop tonight, which really is a backdrop on my wall. It's not a green screen. I picked the library backdrop because I had so much random trivia tonight. It was like I felt like I pulled a book from here and I pulled a book from there. So I thought this was an appropriate backdrop. So I wanted to tell you all, how did stocking stuffers get started? That I don't have a year. I wish I did. Like I said, that research assistant that never had to take Christmas afternoon off. And for anybody who doesn't know, I'm that research assistant. I am my own research assistant. But stocking stuffers started. Nuns would leave tangerines in the socks of poor people. And I thought that was kind of cool because I don't know about you all, but anybody that's in my age range, there was always an orange in the foot of the stocking because it helped keep its shape. But also, I remember waking up every Christmas and knowing that that orange or tangerine was going to be there and couldn't wait to peel it open and eat it right then and there. And then as I got older, I found out that my friend Francisca, who's from the Dominican Republic, tangerines and oranges were very expensive and very hard to come by when she was a kid in the DR, and so it was a big treat to have them on Christmas. So oranges, fruit, that kind of thing, fruit always being cost prohibitive, unfortunately. Those of us with kids know that. But always a treat in the stocking. And also, and for myself as a kid, we used to get pistachios too, because pistachios used to be so expensive. Now, not so much. They're grown in California. But when I was a kid, they were only grown in Iran. So when I was a kid and worked at Vita's Market, Lisa, you know Vita's Market. When I worked at Vita's Market, pistachios were $25.99 a pound. 1982, pistachios were $25.99 a pound. So that's a lot of money. That's why they were in a Christmas stocking, because they were really special. So, but again, that was the origin of the Christmas stocking, was the nuns putting oranges in the stocking of poor people. And I, even my mother said she used to get oranges in her stocking too. So it's always been a treat to get oranges in your stocking. Keep that in mind. And a tradition too. So the next kind of little segment that I have for us tonight is Christmas music. But before I talk about the trivia, I have a really fun story to tell. Unfortunately, it was a little before the time of everybody having a cell phone, so I don't have a picture. But if you know me, you know I'm not full of shit. So what I'm about to tell you is an absolutely true story, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed the whole thing. So, like I said, I am going to talk about Christmas music. So back in, I don't know, whenever we bought this house, I don't know, 13, 14 years ago, I was in my kitchen baking here in this house. And I think it was our first Christmas in this house. And I was baking, so I was feeling very nostalgic and thinking about growing up. And as a kid, my mother listened to the best music. We had the best albums, but we had the best Christmas albums. We had rock and roll Christmas albums. We had the Johnny Mathis Christmas album. We had what's the other guy, Nat King Cole Christmas album. We had the Sonny and Cher Christmas album. We had all the pop music Christmas albums, besides the fact that my mother listened to Blood, Sweat, and Tears and Sonny and Cher and Eagles and all kinds of great music. I just grew up on some fantastic music. Anyways, I was in my kitchen here baking, feeling very nostalgic. And I thought about one of my favorites, and it's this. The Beach Boys Christmas album. And if anybody knows it, it is fantastic. And Michelle, yeah, you know that album, right? And Michelle, you heard this album in our house. We had one of those big stereo long consoles that it was a piece of the furniture, man. It took up a wall, for Christ's sake. But anyways, I was here in my kitchen baking, and I was thinking back to probably, my guess, let's see, do I have it written down? I don't know what year that album came out, but my mother had it and I loved it. So I was thinking of it. Of course, Pop loved it, Michelle. Of course. This is Pop, everybody. And Pop loved music, and he was great at music trivia, and he could sing and play guitar. But so anyways, I was feeling nostalgic. I was thinking of that Beach Boys Christmas album. So I pulled up YouTube and I put it on. And I was listening to this Christmas album as I was baking cookies in my new house. And whatever, I finished up baking. I'm sure I cleaned up the kitchen, and it had snowed a little bit. We really don't have a lot of white Christmases, and I live on the water. We really don't have a lot of white Christmases here. It tends to be a little warmer that time of year over the water. But anyways, I went out and looked out my front window. I have a beautiful front picture window. If anybody knows my view, yeah, I got a killer view. And I look out my window, and there's snow. And out in the edge of the snow, I see these pieces of something black and shiny out in the edge of my yard, probably, if I had to guess, maybe 40 feet from where I was standing looking out the window, close to the sidewalk. And these shiny black things were glinting in the snow. I said, what the hell is that? And I put my boots on. Wait for it. I put my boots on, and I went out in the front yard. And this, like I said, this was probably 2012. And there in my front yard, broken into 4 or 5 pieces, was the Beach Boys Christmas album. I don't know how it got there. I don't know where it came from. I had been thinking of it all day because it was a favorite growing up as a child. I had listened to it in my kitchen. And for crying out loud, it was 2012. who had, I mean, I know turntables have made a comeback, but who had the Beach Boys Christmas album in 2012? Who had a turntable in 2012? Nobody. Michelle does remember that because I was a little spooked. Now I look back, I'm spooked in a good way. Um, but how bizarre is that? So in 2012, thinking about the Beach Boys Christmas album, look out my window, I find these black things in my yard. I go outside and look, and it's a broken Beach Boys Christmas album. So the signs are there, people. You just have to know where to look for them. I think that was pretty crazy. And I really cherish that memory. I mean, something gave me a sign. There was somebody somewhere giving me a sign. I think it was my dad. That's who I think it was. But that's my cool Beach Boys Christmas album story. And also, if you have a chance to listen to it, it is so much fun. It's a very, very fun Christmas album because they are the best. So let's see, what else do I have for Christmas music trivia? I definitely have some more. Jingle Bells, it was written in 1857. Yeah, Lisa, like a glitch in the matrix. That's a really good way of putting it. Yeah, it didn't just show up on my lawn. It showed up on my lawn as I was thinking about it, as I was playing it on YouTube. It was just the weirdest thing. It was exactly a glitch in the matrix, and I feel really lucky to have experienced that. I mean, I was goosebumps telling the story. See, there's something mysterious and macabre in every episode. So, but the next song that I want to talk about, Jingle Bells. Jingle Bells was written in 1857, and it was not a Christmas song. It was a Thanksgiving song, and it was originally called One Horse Open Sleigh. Interesting fact about Jingle Bells, it was also the first song played in space. So on the Gemini 8, Gemini 6, on the Gemini 6, the astronauts smuggled on board a harmonica and bells. And Sleigh Ride was let's show that one. How about that for a piece of trivia? File that one away for Jeopardy, guys. Christmas Jeopardy. Maybe next year I'll do a game show. I have a Jeopardy template. Maybe we'll try, maybe we'll have a Jeopardy night one of these nights. Oh, Lisa, you spark my creativity. You are my muse. Thank you. Anyways, yeah, so the astronauts smuggled a harmonica and bells on board, and they did it's probably the first live stream in history in 1965. Coming at you from the Gemini 6 near the moon, on the moon, in space, and it was the first song played in space, and I think that is cool as shit. And then we've got Bing Crosby's White Christmas. Oh, bye. Good night, Brad. Merry Christmas. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope to see you Saturday night when I'm going to talk about Krampus. I'd love to have you as a guest on the show and talk about the S.K. Pierce house. And yeah, Lisa, love Jeopardy. I have a template. We'll have fun with that. Bing Crosby's White Christmas. Oh, now here's one. Now, again, talk about something on Jeopardy. File this one away, guys. Bing Crosby's White Christmas is the #1 selling single of all time. Of all time. And you've got to think of the Beatles and the Who and the Stones and this and the that and Elvis and so on and so forth. Bing Crosby, #1 selling single of all time. Over 50 million copies of Bing Crosby's White Christmas were sold. That's mind-boggling, especially in a day and age where people don't really buy singles anymore. They listen on Spotify, or I go to YouTube. If I want to hear it, I go to YouTube, and I pay YouTube $12.99 a month, but I don't know if they're paying copyrights. I don't know. But I thought that was interesting of all the music out there. And also, here's something I didn't write down because, again, there was just so much information. I've been talking almost for an hour. I'm going to just go till I get to the end. I don't have much more left. Okay. Elvis Presley recorded a version of White Christmas, and the record studio didn't like it, and they discouraged radio stations from playing it. So what they did with the Elvis Presley version of White Christmas was, as a code, that song was played to withdraw from Vietnam. So when the appropriate parties heard that song in the appropriate place, they knew it was time, and that was the code. And I thought that was very interesting. As a little aside, because I didn't even write that down. And I think it's also cool. I'm just throwing some stuff out there at you guys that I didn't even write down because it's just a ton of Christmas trivia, of course, you know. Um, Simply Having a Wonderful Christmas Time by Paul McCartney. Does anybody know what the claim to fame for that song is? It is known, it's considered the worst song ever recorded. Not the worst Christmas song, the worst song ever recorded. And Paul McCartney continues to collect $400,000 a year in royalties on it. Another interesting tidbit. Another cool thing for, let's see, music, Silent Night. Silent Night. Oh, I think that's probably my favorite Christmas carol. It is the most recorded song in history. It's been recorded 788 times from 1978 to now. So it's been recorded close to 800 times from 1978 to now. It's the most recorded song, most covered song in history. Eartha Kitt. Who doesn't love Eartha Kitt? She sang the first version of Santa Baby, which actually some people thought was very risque. And it kind of was, and that was kind of the spoof of it. And it was kind of Betty Boopish. It's my favorite version of it. Not Madonna's version, and not Taylor Swift's, and not anybody else's. Eartha Kitt's. Well, she did the original one in 1953. Anyways, as she got older, she lived in Connecticut. She lived in Weston, Connecticut. Lisa, what town did you? Oh, Woodbury, you brought up. Okay. Eartha Kitt lived in Weston, Connecticut, and she lived to be 81 years old. And she actually died on Christmas Day, which I thought was kind of a cool synchronicity, and not that cool that she died, but that she died on Christmas Day, and she sang a very, very cool Christmas song. She was 81, very robust life. In the 1950s, the Catholic Church banned a Christmas song. I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus, and the Catholic Church banned it. I'm sure it's been unbanned at this point, but it was banned. And Brenda Lee, Rocking Around the Christmas Tree, that's a favorite of mine. That she was 15, she was only 15 years old when she recorded that. And that is a powerhouse song. We all know that. Well, she got such a powerful voice. And let's see, Joy to the World, not the version by Three Dog Night, which is one of my favorite all-time songs. No, Joy to the World, what we know to be the Christmas song, was originally an Easter song. And I went, joy to the world, the Lord has come, he is risen. And so that kind of made sense to me. And that's actually, guys, that's the last piece of Christmas trivia that I have for you. So I want to thank you all for listening. I hope you all heard something that you never heard before. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you had a couple of laughs. I know I sure did. You guys are the best audience in the world. And I would really appreciate it if you went over to YouTube and hit subscribe, hit like, hit the notification button, all that kind of good stuff. I don't have an agent or anything, and I'm trying to do this on my own. I may have some exciting news after the first of the year, though. I will keep you posted. And if anybody knows any sponsors out there, hit me up. I would love a sponsor, because this is a hobby that I do pay out of my own pocket. So I'd love to have a sponsor. But in the meantime, I will continue to bring you my fun shows. I hope you enjoy them as much as I enjoy presenting them. I'm so grateful for such a big audience on Christmas. And I wish each and every one of you a very, very Merry Christmas. And I hope you had fun tonight, and I hope to see you all on honey garlic chicken. No, Lisa, we had a poo-poo platter. Sorry, I saw that comment earlier. We had a poo-poo platter. That was my Christmas dinner. So again, I want to wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas. Thank you for tuning in. I hope to see you Saturday night at 5:30, where we're going to learn about Krampus. I had no idea at 61 years old. So more stuff on Mysterious and Macabre Saturday night at 5:30. We will see you then, and thank you. Merry Christmas, everybody. Thank you.